Well, I told you I was going to have to go on a little early today. Today, of course, is Tuesday, the shopping day for the DuQuettes. And I'm in the parking lot of the first place we traditionally go to, the Sacramento Natural Foods Co-op. Anyway, I've got something I need to do at 10 o'clock this morning, which is my usual time. Well, I must confess, I'm following the January 6th hearings, and I don't want to miss it. And it starts at 10 o'clock our time here. And even if I'll be in a parking lot, I'll try to follow it on my phone here. So with that confession under the way, today's the day after my birthday. Of course, Lontober continues until August 1st, but I just wanted to thank everyone for your wonderful, kind, sweet, blessed messages yesterday, and I try to acknowledge each one of them, but there's a lot of them, and I'll continue to try to respond as the days go on. But I really appreciate it, and I just wonder how you found out it was my birthday yesterday. It's despite all my efforts, you found out. But anyway, so I'm in the parking lot here today, and coming to you about an hour early, and I'm going to share with you a little something that I've probably shared before. After all, I've been doing this for almost 2 years, I guess. Anyway, it's a little thing called "Do I Have to Get a Job?" And because I've got it, I think it was in Homemade Magic, or yes, I think it was in my book Homemade Magic, which will be re-released hopefully sometime next year. But I'm sure you can still find editions of the Llewellyn edition. Anyways, chapter 16, and it's called "Do I Have to Get a Job?" And it's got an epigram from, I believe, my understanding, Aleister, or the magic of Aleister Crowley. Let me see. It's a footnote here. Yep. Let's see. Yep. It is from, the magic of Aleister Crowley. So, do I have to get a job? The first task of a magician is to master his or her immediate environment. I digress for a moment. That's why when a sort of a classical Golden Dawn style magician constructs their magical tools, the wand, cup, sword, and disc, the first magical tool is the panticle, or the disc. And on the disc you draw a diagram or an object that represents to you the entire roadmap of existence. In other words, your understanding of your spiritual and magical reality, because it's on that foundation that you're going to begin your work. And the next tool is your dagger or your sword, and that's your ruach, your intellect, and you use that to scratch the diagram on your disc. And, well, anyway, you start with the pentacle. So the first task of the magician is to master his or her immediate environment. On the mundane plane, this means the ability to provide materially for yourself and your family, if that's your situation, in such a manner as to allow you to also pursue your spiritual disciplines. This is no mean task. And I doff my magical cap to anyone who can achieve such a lifestyle. Now, I digress again. One of my introductory pieces of literature that really got me involved in magic and mysticism and yoga, Eastern mysticism, things like that, was Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi. If you have not read Autobiography of a Yogi, I strongly, in the most serious, profound seriousness, encourage you to read Autobiography of a Yogi. In it, Yogananda tells of his early days with his guru in India, before he's encouraged to move to the West and bring yoga, specifically Kriya Yoga, to the West. And he talks a great deal about his master, Swami Sri Yukteswar, and his master, Lahir Maishai. And in both cases, both his master and his master's master worked an entire first part of their lifetime doing a regular, mundane job, a job that enabled them to have a certain amount of stability and a certain amount of steady income, and a job which eventually supplied for them a pension. I think Sri Yukteswar worked for the British Railroad or something like that. It was just a responsible job. And at a certain time, and he had raised a family. He was a householder. And at a certain time, after he'd worked a certain number of years, he had a pension. And he retired on that pension and started his own ashram. He spent the rest of his life as a master. Now, both Yogananda, or all of them, Yogananda, Sri Yukteswar, and Lahiri Maishai, all appear on the Beatles' album cover of the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, along with Aleister Crowley and Oscar Wilde and Mae West and W.C. Fields. But I digress. In 1993, I was sitting in my underwear at my computer, typing away at a new book, when Jean-Paul, my son Jean-Paul, noticed how fast I was typing and suggested that I could apply at a local employment agency and easily get a few temporary office jobs. I told him that such agencies didn't want fat, middle-aged men, but that I'd think about it. Properly shamed into action by my own son, and to prove my inherent incapacity to secure honest work, I'd digress and tell you what I did up until that point, but it'd make me sound like a real bum, or worse, a musician. I decided I would at least give it a try. So I put on a suit and a tie and hopped on my little motor scooter and headed off to the nearest agency. It was Remedy Temp, which were a chain of them, in Southern California at least. To my surprise, they were absolutely thrilled at my typing speed and downright giddy over my mastery of the English alphabet and the fact that I could speak in complete sentences. They immediately signed me up and sent me off to a job in a posh office building in Newport Beach. The company was a small 5-person branch office of a commercial real estate firm that negotiated on behalf of tenants in the process of securing new facilities. Now, these weren't residential facilities, they were large office buildings and commercial complexes. I didn't understand a thing about the business, but I soon discovered I could type everybody's letters, organize their files, and generally manage the office while half asleep, and still have about 5 hours a day left over to quietly sit in my cubicle and secretly work on my next book. And I think at that time when I started that, my next book was The Tarot of Ceremonial Magic. Everyone was happy with my work, so after a month or so, they bought me from the temporary agency and made me part of the family. I couldn't believe my good fortune. I was actually being paid each day to write my own books. The company was doing well also, so good, in fact, that they were soon acquired by a much larger and more celebrated commercial real estate company. I not only feared, but I knew I wouldn't be able to keep up the charade for longer under the scrutiny of new management. But before I could be found out, the new company was acquired by an even larger, more celebrated global real estate institution. I and my 5 old bosses moved to a gleaming new building overlooking Newport Beach Back Bay. As luck would have it, the new organization was so big, nobody knew exactly who I was or what exactly I did there. I still typed up a few letters and did some filing for my pals from the old company, but for the most part, I became quite invisible. I had no supervisor, no supervision, and every day for the next 9 years, I arrived to work dressed smartly, and in that place was a white shirt and tie. If you wore a colored shirt, everybody would go, "Whoa, it was casual day." White shirt and tie. Every day for the next 9 years, I expected to be unmasked as an imposter and fired. I wrote 6 books in those 9 years at work. Eventually, because of my exemplary work habits, I was always busy, arrived early, and stayed late. But mostly because of my silver hair, which made me look incredibly distinguished and competent, I was asked by the director of the accounting department, who regularly had me read her tarot cards by then, About 5 years into it, I crawled out of the closet. Everybody knew I was a mystic, crazy nut. She asked me if I could make time in my busy day to help handle the firm's checks and bank transfers along with the necessary documentation. Please remember, this is at the time the largest commercial real estate company in the world. And those checks and wire transfers and things like that were for like skyscrapers in Dubai, Hong Kong, Riyadh. Okay. This was finally starting to look like a real job. And indeed, my last couple years with the firm actually gave me the opportunity to do some honest work and assuaged a bit of my guilt. I confess, however, that I was somewhat relieved when the company ultimately merged with the largest firm of its kind in the world, and I saw my opportunity to take, as it were, an early retirement. There was no pension. It wasn't a retirement. It was my opportunity to stop working gainfully. In 2003, I put on my modest parachute, several months severance and things like that, and I stepped out of the corporate airplane and plunged into the next phase of my life as a full-time Lon. Since 2003, I've been home all day long when not traveling. And as much as we love each other, Constance and I have discovered that we can occasionally get on each other's nerves. And that's the introduction to the next chapter, which is called Homemade Monastery. One morning she woke me up and said, "Let's play Monastery." And I said, "Yes, let's do it." Okay, that's a little bonbon for today, for my early parking lot adventure with you. I know it wasn't much, and I know some of you have already got a copy of Homemade Magic or have heard me read sections of it before. But anyway, I'm bathing in the afterglow of yesterday's festivities. Constance was absolutely wonderful to me. We had an insanely good dinner last night. We tried as best we could to stay cool. It was 109 degrees in our backyard by 5 o'clock yesterday, and it stayed over 100 degrees well into the evening hours. Sacramento is we have air conditioning, but our house is ventilated in such a way as it's almost stupid for us to cool the whole house, and so we more or less tough it out. But yesterday was a little hard toughing it out. Be that as it may, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying your Lontober. And until tomorrow, which will be more routine, I assure you, I hope, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.